Hey guys, thanks for joining me on my live. It's just spooling up what's coming up for the top of the hour here. I got 12:49 as the time. Mitchell Muse, what's up, buddy? You're one of the guys I want to talk to about it, the Free Man on Earth thing that kind of Bones is talking about, and hey, Melissa. Yeah, talk about that. Kind of where that whole thing comes from. I'd love to have people, especially if you're able to speak French. I can have you right on the radio talking about stuff like that, illuminating some minds. But I guess the history of all that stuff, what kind of got us to the point we're in, especially this crazy duality where you've got extreme right and extreme left points of view, and neither one is willing to, it seems, to accept the views of the others. I feel like most of the general populace actually is somewhere in the middle with slightly left tendencies or slightly right tendencies. Excuse me. Personally, I consider myself mostly conservative, especially fiscally, so I don't like spending money even for myself, let alone governmentally. So save as much money as possible. So fiscally conservative, but I have some liberal points of view. I see some things that need change, and I'd love for those things to be talked about so we can address them in a manner that pleases everybody. And yeah, I fully realize that you can't always please everybody, but it doesn't mean that you can't sometimes, or at least talk about it and figure out what it is that everybody's after, and then maybe then you can find some common ground, you know. So yeah, it's kind of got a three-tiered approach to what I'm trying to do and get my message out. Initially, it all started with the show I've got on CIFA. So that CIFA basically, I find a lot like talking about icebreakers when you first meet somebody at a party. There's certain topics that you can't just jump right into and people think you're freaking crazy. So on CIFA, I talk about the weather, and I talk about things that concern the area. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't make it not important, because the area to me is all I have to give. Anyway, so yeah, that's the original stance. With CIFA, it's kind of an introductory. Then I get to do the lives with my friends. A lot of my friends don't even speak French, so this way everybody understands what I'm trying to do, what my goals are. And then this is the venue where I get to figure out what you guys want to talk about. Research if I don't already know about it a little bit. Then rip it to pieces, rip it to shreds on a podcast with people that are on both sides of an opinion. If you have to do it one at a time so you're not having fist fights in the middle of a podcast, so be it. I'll have one guy that's a leftist approach, one girl that's leftist approach, and one guy or girl that's conservative approach, or righty. It's the only way to figure out what works for everybody. One of the great ways that I heard it described really was in music. One of the guys that I was doing courses with in music online basically says, here, just learn all the rules just so you know where you can bend them. And I think that's what long form discussion really does well. You get to, not that it's rules, but you get to listen to somebody's point of view so extensively that you know where they're coming from, and you know where one little point of your own ideal can be interjected so that somebody goes, huh, I never considered that. I mean, not to say that people's opinions always have to change to bend to yours. I'm going to say it might sound disingenuous, it might sound unhonest, but if somebody brings forth a point that makes sense, yeah, I'm willing to accept that I was wrong in certain things. Like, I don't know if he's still on, but a buddy of mine, Jeff, last night we were chatting, and he was just really frank with me, and I was like, you know what, man? I agree. He's basically was saying that I was trying to sound smarter than I am. And yeah, I am. I always am. Because for long enough now, I've kind of just cruised on being the friendly jock guy. That not so much in my adulthood, but in high school, people that would have known me as a guy that didn't give a crap about any rules or status quo, really. I partied and had fun, and that was all I cared about. But I'm willing to accept that now, yeah, they're trying to broach some topics that maybe I don't comprehend fully, because when I was in my developing age, I was too self-conscious to be honest to people and be my true self, to embrace the inner nerd. Had I been when I was in my formative years, then I could have learned this stuff and had a firm grasp on it. Now I just crave the knowledge. I want more all the time. Hi, Gramir. How are you? Yeah, that's kind of where it is. Sometimes you have to kind of humble yourself and be like, yeah, you know what? I see where you're coming from. But that doesn't mean you have to swallow it and not give your opinion back. So that's what I said to Jeff, or just what I explained to you. It's in text, so it's really hard to do it effectively, because I mean, you got two thumbs that are rattling out letters per minute. Like, it's just not effective. So I do a Cole's Notes version, say, yeah, you know what, I'm just compensating. And it really boils down to that deep down in my heart of hearts, when I was a young guy, I wasn't huge physical stature. I was short all the time until, I always say, the second year of grade 9, because I failed high school because I didn't care. I was like, this is stupid and pointless, and I don't see it. I don't see what the point is. Because in some cases I was getting, I don't know how to broach this without sounding cocky or arrogant, but I was being taught by teachers that were saying, you're never going to amount to anything. And realizing that if we were to just sit down and do an IQ test side by side, I'd walk all over them. And I can't respect somebody like that it doesn't respect me. Sorry. Hey, Claude, how's it going? Still now, if you're that kind of person, dude, I got nothing to say to you. Can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. That's what I was always told. So, I'm hoping to get into the weeds, like they say, this weekend, because Monday is podcast day, International Podcast Day on Monday, this 30th. So, I'm hoping to get into the weeds a little bit about some topics here and really let her rip. Excuse me. Yeah, I'll really let her rip on some topics and my stances, maybe, and kind of go like that. Go hard at something that is maybe a little too much for Facebook, even, because like Rogan and his buddies will say on his own podcast, it's a little too woo-hooey. It's stuff that's kind of, you might not be able to physically grasp some of these ideas and say, yeah, that's tangible, because it's intangible things, like where I think religion came from, some of the nefarious or the ill-intended decisions that were made to create religion as we know it. That's not saying that they're all nefarious, but you have to consider that every single one of them has to profit in order to stay afloat. And I'll touch on this a little bit, and I have before. In the Mesoamericas, the Aztecs were visited by the Spaniards. And I can't remember when exactly it was. But the Spaniards saw the Aztecs partaking in Teoanacatl. It's the flesh of the gods, or I think they called it. So they saw the Aztecs partake in that, and I would assume that they partook in the same thing themselves, that they took part in the ceremony. Would you go to an unknown land and say, you guys are crazy, I'm not drinking this drink that you're drinking to see your gods, or to make communion with God? So I think that they actually tried it. When they tried it, they realized that they were pontiffs. Like a pope is considered a pontiff, Pontiff. Pont is a French word for a bridge, pontiff, which means that the human pope, or the pontiffs, were bridges to God, is what they considered themselves. And they realized if you can just eat something, if you can take communion in the body of Christ, just like our Christians do, eat it and actually see God, that you don't even need the humans anymore. So they made it the devil's food and abolished it. I will be right back. Sécurement, un air de conditions actuelles ont été enregistrées à l'aéroport de Yarmouth à 12h à matin. Généralement ensoleillé, pression barométrique de 101,7 kPa avec une tendance qui hausse. Humidité de 76%, vent nord-nord-ouest de 22 km/h, rafale de 32. Les prévisions ont été émises à 11h, généralement ensoleillé, vent du nord-ouest 20 km/h avec rafale à 40 devenant ouest. Cet après-midi, maximum de 17 indices UV de 5 ou modéré. Ce soir et cette nuit, quelques nuages, nappe de brume qui se formera en fin de nuit, vent ouest de 20 km/h devenant légère au cours de la nuit, minimum de 8. Pour demain, généralement ensoleillé, beau soleil, nappe de brouillard et se dissipera le matin, vent devenant du sud-ouest à 20 km/h avec rafale 40 en après-midi, maximum 18, indice UV de 5 ou modéré. La nuit, ennuagement minimum de 13 et pour dimanche, alternance de soleil et de nuages avec 60% probabilité de showers, maximum 19. La nuit, clear, minimum de 7. Hello again. Teoanacatl, I believe. That was what the Aztecs considered the flesh of the gods. And it was a mushroom. When they ate it, they made communion with the spirit energies. What I'd like to delve into is what that connection comes from. Is it truly what they seem to be saying? Science seems to be saying that it's an endogenous, which means it comes from within, an endogenous release from your endocrine system. Endocrine is our hormone system. It's where our glands are, pineal glands, thyroids, all those kind of things. Pineal, pituitary, thyroids. I can't even think of all of them. They all release chemicals that give us different feelings of ecstasy, or all that kind of stuff. So, are these substances, like mushrooms that contain psilocybin, that metabolizes into dimethyltryptamine, that's a serotonergic receptor? Serotonin is what causes happiness. The compounds not only turn on those receptors and kind of make them plastic so that you get new thought, new feelings, they also have an element that turns off what's called a default mode network. That's a part of your frontal cortex in your brain that regulates self-rumination, for example, which that means if somebody asks you, give me some adjectives to describe yourself, and you have to think about how you're perceived to the world, and use adjectives to describe that. That act is rumination, or thinking about yourself, self-rumination. So it shuts off the part of your brain that does that, basically, so you can't think about yourself. There's nothing that's controlling exterior thought. It's just all just instinctive, sort of, at that point. No ego. So large enough doses of those compounds give you something called ego death, or shutting off the default mode network, and allow the neuroplasticity of your neurons. So basically, it could be described as such. If you have a depressive thought, for example, every time if I'm on stage singing, somebody comes and says, "Hey Jay, good job," instantly my brain goes to, "Oh, they don't think I did that well, but they say good job to make me feel good." I don't take it genuinely as though they're actually giving me a compliment, and for some reason I just can't do that. I can't accept it as it is. So that is, every time somebody says good job, a little neuron, like an electric wire sort of, fires off a signal in my brain. That jumps something called a synapse, a gap, from one neuron to the next, and it transfers the message, and my brain gets that as, oh, this person's not being genuine, but at least they're being nice. How good of them to come make me feel good about myself, or try to. When the default mode network shuts off, it basically resets all the synaptic gaps, so that if that firing of a synapse was a path in snow, for example, on a mountain, it always goes down the same exact path. Every time you get a negative thought, it changes those. So the next time you hear that compliment, instead of going down the same path, it's like there's a brand new fresh layer of snow, and it finds the right path to go through. That's called neuroplasticity. Hey, Sarah. That being said, hi, Lara. That being said, the neuroplasticity and the shutting off of the default mode networks tend to help. For some people, especially if you have a profound spiritual experience from these compounds, it can completely change your perspective on life, help with curing of depression. One of the key factors that scientists are learning, that if you administer these compounds, most especially psilocybin or lysergic acid diethylamide, if you administer them in the right mindset of the patient and the right setting, meaning it's calm and tranquil, and a place that you can be pensive, that you can think things through, with a psychotherapist there that's going to talk you through issues, that you can effectively cure depression within just 2-3 sessions. In the 50s, they found out that lysergic acid diethylamide could be used to cure alcoholism quite effectively. I think there were 50 to 60,000 studies across North America, a lot of which were in Vancouver. And actually, the person that started Alcoholics Anonymous did so because he had a profound experience. Hey, Andrew, how's it going? So yeah, the guy that started Alcoholics Anonymous had a profound experience on one of these psychedelic compounds. I believe lysergic acid diethylamide, could have been psilocybin. Nonetheless, that changed his outlook on life so much that he decided to start something that could hopefully instill the profundity of spirit that he had seen with the compound. Yeah, that is a little bit of history on what happens when you experience these compounds. If you're interested in that kind of thing, Michael Pollan has a book. I've listened to it now 6 times, read it once, called How to Change Your Mind. Michael Pollan is a New York Times best-selling author. He's been on Joe Rogan a couple times now, I think. He's been on the Aubrey Marcus podcast and all over the internet. And yeah, How to Change Your Mind approaches it scientifically and shows you what all these things do, basically. I'm on in just 10 seconds, so I'll be right back. Excuse me for just a minute. C'est Anne-Rit, vous êtes rendu ici dans Tout Sept avec Jay Hubbard à Voix'd Par-en-Bas. Voix'd d'une journée nationale pour aujourd'hui, le 27 de septembre. C'est la journée nationale de lait au chocolat. C'est bon stuff, mais garde combien de sucre dans la dingue. Rien pour dire, du sucre quand tu gardes dans la boisson, pour toutes les teaspoons que tu vois, pardonnez-moi, pour chaque 4 teaspoons que tu vois dans une boisson comme du lait au chocolat, écoute-moi penser, c'est quoi? 4 grammes c'est 1 teaspoon, c'est ça que ça va. So, là au chocolat, c'est comme 11 grammes ou 3 teaspoons d'un tissues de 250 millilitres. Quand même, Journée nationale de lait au chocolat. C'est aussi la journée nationale de corned beef hash, un de mes meals favoris. La journée nationale d'écraser une canette, crush a candy. Journée nationale des scarfs. En beau français, c'est nommé une écharpe. Mais moi, une écharpe, c'est un splinter, so je vais rester avec un scarf. C'est la journée nationale des braves. C'est aussi la journée nationale d'embrasser un végétarien. La journée nationale de tourisme et la journée nationale d'animateur du matin. Bonne journée, Wayne. Comment ça va? La journée nationale de notes d'amour, love notes. Et la journée nationale d'appréciation des ancêtres. Cette semaine, c'est la semaine nationale des compteurs au travail. Puis c'est le mois national de l'héritage hispanique, lire un livre neuf, de l'amitié, du miel d'abeille, le mois national de conscience au cancer juvénile et le mois national de conscience à l'affliction neurologicale nommée Chiari. Aussi, si vous les avez jamais essayé, lundi qui vient, c'est-à-dire le 30, c'est la journée internationale des podcasts. Un podcast est beaucoup comme une émission de radio comme je fais aujourd'hui, qui sont parfois recordés sur vidéo, et puis ils sont mis sur l'Internet. Vous pouvez les watcher, les écouter, n'importe quand tu veux. Il y a des milliers de topics qui sont couverts par du monde qui ont toutes sortes de positions différentes. Et j'en ai une moi aussi, je vais faire sûr que le mien va être là pour lundi et tout, so va le checker out. So, à venir plus tard, on va voir des bonnes fêtes locales, des fêtes des fameux, du monde fameux, et des annonces communautaires. Pour l'instant, c'est PJ Sled Ride. Hey everybody. I'm fighting so you'll have to excuse me. Yeah, what do you want to talk about? Type it right in the notes here, down below. Woo! Give me an idea. Let's talk about some stuff. I'm always looking for something new to obsess about. And yeah, as you might have heard in French, if you didn't understand, this Monday, the 30th, is International Podcast Day. Hey, No Cray, how's it going? International Podcast Day, so I hope to have rooting through the weeds, delving deep kind of podcast on a topic, and I'd love to know what you guys would like to hear about. Do you want our ancestral background for the Acadians? Do you want to learn how the Knights Templar tie into the Acadians and why Oak Island has so much French language there? If you want to learn about the Vikings and our ties that way. Just for example, my tante Yvette did Ancestry.ca DNA test a few years back now. I haven't gotten a chance to do it myself, but I should. Nonetheless, I believe it was a 2%, 2% Scandinavian content in her DNA. It's hard to even comprehend. If you go back to the Vikings times, what, 1200s-ish? Yeah, maybe before that? I don't really know. I got to brush up on my history. So at one point, and you see it on the History Channel, they're kind of rooted heavily in fact, even though it might be dramatized a little bit. So they showed Ragnar Lothbrok. He was originally just a farmer, became the king of I forget what they called it, something Landia, Norlandia, don't remember. Became the king nonetheless. And his brother, I believe, Rollo. Was it Rollo? I think it's Rollo. He ended up, anyway, the Vikings attacked Paris. And in so doing, they lose. The Parisian king, I can't remember who it was at that time, nonetheless, the Parisian king basically approached Rollo. I'm going by my really crappy memories, so what I'll do is just skip. Rollo ends up marrying a French noble, or at least lineage to French nobility. And he has his own kids and all that kind of stuff, and Rollo is Viking. Got in with the French. The French are our ancestors, as are the Knights Templar. We left France because of religious persecution and what we considered a failed monarchy. We didn't want to pay taxes to a king that didn't have our interests in mind. Just like the government nowadays seems to not have our own interests in mind. However, thank you to Colton. It was great to see you actually pitching the concerns of the constituency. And yes, Chris Dontremo did that, and Zach does that. It's nice to see a fresh, unjaded voice in there. So, yeah, thanks again, Colton. It was nice to see you doing that. So, persecution. We're fleeing that. The Templar Knights in the 1200s had such great persecution because they had amassed a pile of wealth, and the King Philip the Fair had owed a lot of money to the church. He had borrowed money to wage wars, crusades and stuff like that, which the Knights Templar had helped him fight. So the French government owed a lot of money to the church. And in the Knights Templar show on history, it shows it as though the church always assumed that the Templar Knights were Catholic, though I believe they always kind of knew in their heart of hearts that they were spiritualists, just a belief in theism, not in one specific kind of God. Not specifically in Christ, not specifically in Allah or whatever it happened to be. I don't know all the gods. But they just believed overall in a deity, that there's some higher power. So they charged the Knights Templar with heresy, and they burned them at the stake in hopes that they can garner all the Templar Knights' money, and the king will be square with the church, and the church will have the leftovers type of thing. It's all pretty nefarious stuff when you think about it, that the Catholic Church basically was pooling all that money in the Vatican. They get rid of the Templar Knights. They fall in disaccord because the Templar Knights were... The common person realized that these knights were honorable men, honorable people. So the general populace realized that they were honorable people and that they had pretty much been assassinated, which actually is the root of why Friday the 13th is considered bad luck, a bad omen, because they had sent out a hit on the Knights Templar that happened to happen on Friday the 13th. Just trying to recall where I was. So the Knights Templar flee. They go to north of France, and eventually from there, there's a sympathizer called William Sinclair that's Scottish. And it's said that William Sinclair explored New Scotland. That's why Nova Scotia is called Nova Scotia, New Scotland, and brought the Templar Knights with him. They made settlements and befriended the Mi'kmaq, the Aboriginals of the area. We all know the Mi'kmaq. If you come from here, you know that Métis is basically a blend of the French, originally the Knights Templar, and the Mi'kmaq, and realizing that they have the same belief system, that they believe in deity, they believe in something that created everything, and the benevolence of man is basically at their root. That is them. So, one of the cool things that you see is the Micmac flag, and that's on Oak Island, the Curse of Oak Island. The Mi'kmaq flag and the Knights Templar flag are almost exactly identical. I believe mirror images of one another. Which kind of lends you to believe that these people almost created a nation, that they said, you are my reflection and I'm yours. We're the same thing, but we have different lineage. So together we're one. That ancestry, when the Acadians free France, and if you Google search Acadians, AKK instead of AC, you'll find Mesopotamia, I believe, in Turkey, a populace there that was a benevolent people as a whole. It's funny that we, the French, chose our namesake to commemorate those people. So, the Acadians are fleeing France. They go to basically the New Scotia, where they know there's French settlements that the Templars established. And we become who we are. We establish Port Royal, Par-en-Bas. Down here, it's Par-en-Bas. And I think the Par-en-Bas region was a draw because Tuscan River, the great tidal river, allowed the people to use, I forget what they're called, those the haystacks, saltwater haystacks. They used that to feed their livestock and stuff, and stay, to fatten them up, give them the nutrients that are necessary to get through harsh winters that we experienced, more so than now. So that's a little bit of our ancestry, and then that leads into deportation and how you hear people that sound just like us in Louisiana, for example, because they were also French colonies. Potentially they were even settled by the Knights Templar, and there's something called a Kensington Stone that talks about that as well. So look into that. Kensington Stone by Scott Wolper, I think is his name. Wolter with a T like tango, or Wolper with a P like papa. Can't remember, but if you Google Kensington Stone, Scott W something, it'll auto-populate and you'll get the information. This could have been the Templar Knights that settled all those areas in the U.S. as well. It's just so much stuff that's tied together. It's crazy. I'll be right back. I'm back on. C'est énervant et vous êtes rendu ici avec Jay Hubbard à Voix'd Par-en-Bas. Va dire des bonnes fêtes à mes amis sur Facebook à cette heure. Aujourd'hui, c'est la 36e fête à Alexandra Dawn Rogerson, qui est proclamée par soi-même comme reine du karaoke, karaoke queen. Si tu aimes le karaoke, tu peux trouver Alexandra sur Facebook pour d'autres détails. C'est aussi la 43e fête à Mike Amatou-Dusac. C'est le même que nous autres le connaissions à l'école. Il est mon âge, Mike. Une moitié de Hacker Doucet Surveying et tout. C'est aussi la fête à Lloyd Jedry de Paraho et la 58e fête à Leland à Leonard Surrey, des îles du Surrey, qui est un chef spirituel autochtone. Alors bonne fête de nouveau à Alexandra, Mike, Lloyd et Leland. À cette heure, je vais voir Zachary Richard, ma petite fille. Hey, what's up everybody? I had gotten just a slight little branch in the idea, Par-en-Bas and feeding livestock and keeping them through harsh winters and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to refresh my memory, but it seems to be gone. I apologize for that. I guess I like to talk about this stuff because, say, Monsieur Claude Godin, that seems to be on the live here, and Grand-Mère Pauline, say I got them both in the room. They've got absolutely, completely different experiences that brought them to where they are right now, and they may have bumped into one another because Claude has done plays here, Par-en-Bas. Did one for Chris Atkinson, I think, or with Chris Atkinson recently, and Bruce Muse and Clinton Saunier. Don't know if Tante Sandra was part of that one or not, but at one point they may have bumped paths. In either case, if I say, hey Claude, have you ever heard any interesting stuff about Acadian history? And yeah, I told you it. Have you heard this story? No, I haven't heard that story. And Grand-Mère Pauline's going to say, which we've talked about a little bit, and I got to get an actual interview here soon. We've talked about her ancestry, my ancestry, in Belleville. She was part of the Bourke family in Belleville that were wheelwrights. They made wagon wheels. They had a forge and a steel forge to do the bands around the wheels. And that was behind the homestead where Dad grew up, when I was born and raised, that's where I knew Grand-Mère Pauline to live. She's now she lives with her current husband, Roland, in Tuscan. And also next to that house, right next door, would have been a brother. And Grandmère was telling me just the other day that that brother, or maybe brothers, nonetheless, they build like specialty doors and windows for houses. They also built a boat there, and that boat was used to sail across Eel Lake before there were any causeways. I've heard some stories. I can't remember if Grandmère told me this or Mum and Dad, who it was, but the people from what we call Les Forks, from Quinnen, before they had their own church, they would take horse and carriage all the way to Belleville to get there in time to take the boat, and everybody would go across Eel Lake. They'd get off somewhere on the Saint-André-Rousseau or Eelbrook side, probably around Lost des Frogs, Frog Cove, and walk from there to the church, Église Saint-Anne. And then after that, they'd sail back home, and the people from Les Forks, from Quinnen, would ride their horse and carriage back home. So it was an all-day affair just to attend church. That's how faithful these people were. So yeah, that's some of the heritage. That stuff like that, we don't want things like Grandmère was also telling me in that regard. Such a vast undertaking to have to sail a boat and cross a lake that's miles long, basically, just to get to church, that eventually the villagers got together and petitioned for a causeway that's currently there, that goes from where the level crossing in Belleville is, that they just renovated. That level crossing kind of goes towards Saint-André-Rousseau, where the old school and the church were. And there's a causeway there that goes right through an island and then up over the little bridge. The same bridge where there was a body found maybe 10 years ago or more now. Goodness, it's been a long time. Nonetheless, that causeway was a petition that the villagers got together and did. So, in that light, check out my petition on Facebook. I've only got a few more days, and regardless of how many signatures, I'm going to start calling people or emailing them and seeing if I can meet up with them to do get an actual physical signature. Because the physical signature is required for me to actually table that petition at the Legislative Assembly. They just opened up. Yesterday was their first day, and again, congrats to Colton for your first day at work in your new position. So, good job, man. It was nice to see you there. And yeah, we're going to table that petition in hopes of changing the Highway 103 where it terminates on the Hartscratch Road. If you're not aware, there's quite a large hill there, and I think the hill was initially put there in anticipation of a future, at that time, imminent future overpass that was going to connect the 103 to the 101. And if you're curious where that would come out, if you look towards the RV shop, you're going to see, just making sure that I'm good to go here. Yeah, I am. So if you look towards the RV shop, you're going to see, just deleting a song here, that there's a cell tower, I believe, a tower with a flashing light. So if you keep that in mind, where it is, you kind of drive around past the Department of Transportation, hit Stars Road, go past the cinema, Boston Pizza, Giant Tiger, and the Dollar Store, and all that stuff, and Canadian Tire, you hit the 101. You take the right onto the 101, you drive up, and if you look to your right, when you're about perpendicular to that tower, you've gone past the 103 by, say, 100 meters. So that gives you an idea roughly where it is, and if you look there, there's solid land. It's not swamp. They could easily connect the two highways there. And this is speaking ideally. In an ideal world, those two highways would be connected. There'd be, say, a roundabout that they seem to love so much that allows some of the traffic to flow off, go across the currently for sale, by the way, Trefry field that used to be a farm. I think it's the Trefry land. Anyway, it's for sale with Modern Realty. So you'd have a road that crosses that field, comes back to Pleasant Street, and then, for example, ambulances that come off the 101 or the 103 could go straight down, hit Pleasant Street, go down Chestnut, straight into the hospital. not have to go through any of the lights or the stuff, the idiocy that sometimes goes on Stars Road. Not to mention the idiotic lights that we've got there. Hi Jen, how you doing? Can you pop me a message, Jen, if you're still on? Let me know when you're back to work. Thank you. So yeah, if we can't do the ideal thing, which is to connect the two highways and relieve the flow of traffic and congestion and all the silliness that goes on there, it gets so busy in the morning that people basically pile up from the hard scratch road and line up all the way pretty much to the top of the hill. Yesterday again, my wife said she was on her way to work. Some guy in a big Dodge, she said, walks on the brakes with screeching tires and passes her on her right to avoid hitting her. This is 3 potential accidents, 2 actual accidents, 3 potential that I know of in the past 2 weeks. Actually, it's a week and 4 days. 17th, there was a 3-car pile up there, at the very least, maybe 4. Then exactly a week later, there was another accident there, and then yesterday again, my wife almost got rear-ended there. If you can't do the proper thing right now, if you can't justify spending the money to put overpasses and connect highways, then at least get rid of the hill and make it safe so you can see that 1.5 kilometers roughly. And if you're familiar with coming from Tuscany to town, you know that at about a 1.5 kilometer mark, there's a big sign that says highway ends 1.5 kilometers. Then that's after you're going down there's 2 big hills after the Green Railroad. After the second hill, you come down 1.5 kilometers to the end of the highway. You see a curve to the right, a gradual turn. While you're making that turn, you start to see the back of the Fisherman's Memorial Highway sign that's on your left. That is plus or minus 100 kilometers, I think, just a little more than 100 meters, my bad. It's not very far anyway from the 1 kilometer mark. And if you pay attention from that sign, you start to climb slowly, you get to the top of the hill, it descends a little bit more rapidly afterwards. So that tells me if you were to start cutting back that hill there, you'd probably end up with a slight downhill grade that would wind up at the end of the road, which would be just over 1 kilometer long, and you should have plenty of time to see if there's traffic you're going to ram into the back of. So do that. If you agree with that sentiment, either fix it properly or at least for now get rid of the hill, then go see my petition, sign it, and I'll talk to you soon because we need some real signatures. C'est 1h31, vous êtes rendu ici avec Jay Hubbard à Voix'd Par-en-Bas. Je suis ici à la salle Maurice Leblanc, en derrière de l'école secondaire de Par-en-Bas. Tu drives around derrière là, dans le théâtre, au fond des escaliers, au-dessous des escaliers, sur le ground level, comme tu disais. Je suis là. Je suis ici, dans la belle closette, et je vous parle sur les autres. Astère va donner des fêtes des femmes. So aujourd'hui, le 27 septembre sera été fête dans 1389, 1389. Cosimo de Medici, banquier italien, de facto gouverneur de Florence et patron des arts, a été né à Florence, Italie. Dans 1627, Jacques Bénigne Bossuet, évêque français et écrivain, preacher de la cour de Louis XIV, a été né à Dijon, France. Dans 1722, Samuel Adams, révolutionnaire américain au massacre Boston Tea Party, et aussi politicien, lieutenant-gouverneur du Massachusetts, entre 1789 et 94, a été né à Boston, Massachusetts. Dans 1783, Augustin le premier de Iturbide, en général, est le premier empereur du Mexique. Entre les années 1822 et 23, a été né en Valladolid, Michoacán, Mexique. Wow, ça c'est à quoi de nom. Dans 1817, Hiram R. Revels, le premier Africain-Américain sénateur des États-Unis, a été né en Fayetteville, North Carolina. Dans 1707, Bhagat Singh, c'est un combattant de liberté indienne, a été né en Jarawala, Tehsil, Punjab. Dans 1972, 1972, Gwyneth Paltrow, une actrice américaine, a été née en Los Angeles, Californie. dans 1984, moi j'avais quoi, 8 ans de vieux. Avril Lavigne, c'est une chanteuse, écrivaise canadienne, a été née à Belleville, Ontario. Je choque à rac. À propos de ça, si tu gardes ici, j'écoute cette tune ici quasiment tous les jours. C'est Marco Polo Joe, Par-en-Bas. Et si tu écoutes là, il va dire j'étais avec une femme de Belleville. Ça, c'est une des premières lignes de chanson. Marco Polo Joe, Par-en-Bas. Hey guys. You come from the land down under. Some funny lyrics in here. Marco Polo Joe. Gotta talk to that guy at some point in here. Do you understand my accent, mon patois? It's not your fault if you're a Quebecer, is one of the lines. And it makes me laugh because they don't have a clue what we're saying just as much as we don't have a clue what they're saying. Nonetheless, I got 2 minutes and 54 seconds too much there. I'm just gonna delete a couple songs. 44:37, that's close enough. So one song does it. Thanks for tuning in. It's kind of nice. I've had somebody on my live, it seems, all day. So thank you. I'm cruising on like just under 4 hours sleep, it seemed. So I work at the hospital nights. If you're not aware, I work nights there. I'm a janitor. I wax the floors. So waxed a big old area last night and got finished a little late, but my bad. I'd gone a little long on one of my breaks, so it's not like I'm going to go for overtime or anything. Anyway, I got all done, and a buddy of mine, Josh, is working in X-ray, and he'd been busy enough all night, but kind of slowing down. I think around 1, 2 o'clock, not real sure, but around 1 or 2 o'clock, he typically goes home and he'll sleep. And if they need him, they'll give him a call and he'll come in. And he's like, man, I'm not tired. Come on down and chat. So I come on down and chat. I'm thinking, I've got the night off tonight. I'm going to go to trivia night with Grand-Mère Pauline there and at Club Agatien in Sarria, Saint-Andre so. So I'm psyched for that. I'm kind of excited to see what I've never done one. See if I can actually pull out some useless knowledge out of this crazy cranium of mine. And yeah, we start chatting, and next thing I know, I look up and it's like 2:30 or so. Yeah, roughly. I got a 20-minute drive to get home at the very least, so I eventually get home, roll into bed. I wake up, and again, if you don't know, I've got something that they call central sleep apnea. A lot of people nowadays have apneas, and that's typically with this. Like, if I see that, so when you bend your neck down, if you've got that, or mostly if you've got a wide neck, you probably have a blockage of sorts that happens when you lay on your back, especially. So your mouth's open. Your larynx will kind of close off from the excess pressure from if there's a little bit of fat there and large muscle mass, it kind of collapses back. And that's called obstructive, an obstruction or something that's blocking your larynx, obstructive sleep apnea. So what that does is it blows pressurized air through your larynx, kind of inflates it like a balloon so that you keep on breathing and you don't get just a close off that inhibits your air. So I do have a slight amount of that happens. The central sleep apnea that I have basically is a fault in my brain that doesn't tell me to breathe innately. Like, we have a lot of functions that happen automatically that we don't have to think about. Apparently I'm apparently I'm so dumb my brain doesn't even know to tell me to breathe at night. So it is TGIF. Thanks, Uncle Lori. And thanks for the well wishes too. So central sleep apnea, yeah. Don't breathe well at night. And all actuality, what will happen is I'll hold my breath. So stop breathing. I'm holding my breath. When my brain gets to the point where it's starting to be oxygen deprived or carbon dioxide rich, don't know which one it is. In either case, once I start to lack oxygen, my brain will trigger a wake up signal. Basically, gets me. So as soon as I hit REM sleep, that I actually relax and it's not just happening in conscious hours. Seems like once I go to unconscious, I stop breathing. So in this case, you need even more high pressure air that's going to open that windpipe fully and basically blow the air right down into the lungs for you. Wife doesn't believe me, but I've done it a billion times before. I had a full face mask. Now I wear on like a fighter pilot that kind of covers everything. And that way I can open my mouth and the air will still go in. Before I used to have one that was like only nose, and I open my mouth and it would go and shoot out of my throat. So as easy as you can take a drink of water or hold your breath and take a drink of water, you can shut off that line that allows air into your lungs. So that way you don't get water in your lungs when you're drinking water. So the same happens to me. I insist. Amanda doesn't insist. She's like, no, it's pumping air into your lungs and there's nothing you can do to stop it. It is true to a certain extent. Before I was diagnosed, or when I went for the test initially, before they came up with the final diagnosis, between 30, we'll say 30, I don't remember, 30 episodes a night where I hold my breath for about a minute at a time. And then I get woken up out of proper sleep, and when my body wakes up, it goes and takes a deep breath, basically. So that is central sleep apnea. Don't really usually sleep very well, and this whole story started because on my machine it tells me exactly how long I had it on for. So I put it on, I start to breathe just regularly. It'll instantly start a ramped, so slowly increasing air pressure, and then in the morning it tells me how long I slept. And today, less than 4 hours, 3 hours and 56 minutes. So I don't know if under a sleep deprived brain I'll be useful at all at a trivia night, but I guess we'll see. We'll see. Excited for that. Don't know. As you just saw, I tend to be quite easily long-winded on stuff like that. Just making sure that everything's lining up the way it should here, and it seems to be. So when I see, especially a new topic, I'm getting the again, so I'm going to pop a cough drop and let that loosen it up a bit. When I learn something new, I like to rip it apart, to learn everything I can learn about it, and sift through the weeds, figure out what's fact, what's conjecture, which is like opinion and stuff, and kind of go from there to be able to get to a point where I can explain it in my own words or paraphrase it. That's what I like to do. So, this is a different tangent, but I'll go there because I got a few minutes. Might as well chat. I spoke to numerous doctors now about central sleep apnea. I can't even... Less than a quarter of them knew anything substantial about sleep apnea or could answer my questions like Okay, so if I'm not breathing, what on earth is pumping air into my mouth going to change? Am I just hyperoxygenating while I'm breathing so that I can hold my breath for longer? Sort of is the answer. What I'm getting at is, unless you've got a dog in the fight, like they say, unless something affects you or your family directly, there's no real incentive for you to research something so thoroughly that you know it fully inside and out. And that can apply for a lot of things. I think one of the most crucial ones that we're seeing now is depression. Doctors are they don't have time to sit and learn what causes depressive behavior or depressive thought, but they do have time to be pitched, typically by drug reps or peers, that we've found a solution by taking this antipsychotic or whatever it is, or SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I'd been on those at one point. Feel like an emotionless zombie. So they say, okay, Jay's depressed, put him on an SSRI. Well, an SSRI or any other antidepressant gives you a betterment of a score called the Hamilton scale, on something called the Hamilton scale. I think it's a 0 to 51 scale. And we'll say that 0 is acutely suicidal. You're standing on the edge of a cliff. And 51 is acutely ecstatic. You've just, I don't know, you've just met God himself. Complete ecstasy. It increases your score on that scale by 0.8, 0.8. A good night's sleep will decrease, a good night's sleep will increase your, I crossed my numbers up, sorry. 0.6 is your increase on the Hamilton scale, 0.6. A good night's sleep is 1.8. So just a little slightly over twice as good a mood, or less depressive tendency, just from a good night's sleep, as compared to the SSRIs. Unless they've got a dog in the fight, unless they're suffering fully from depression and want to know how to cure it without drugs, what's gonna incent them to research that for months? And that's not to harp on the doctors. They just don't have time. You can't. If you see a patient every 15 minutes all day, every day, they've got some legitimate stuff that they have to research to keep somebody from dying. They're not it's almost like a triage system in itself. I'm going to be on the radio here in 5 seconds. I'll be right back. C'est 1h46, vous êtes rendu ici dans tout stade avec Jay Hubbard à Voix'd Par-en-Bas. Merci beaucoup pour me rejoindre aujourd'hui. C'est le jeudi 26 de septembre. Et ça, c'est nos annonces communautaires de nouveau. Vous pouvez maintenant acheter des tickets de bingos pour Radio CIFA chez Dell's Home Hardware en Pabnico et tout. Pour 7 pièces le bundle, le bingo c'est tous les vendredis soirs à 6h. N'oubliez pas... Oh, c'est trop tard à cette heure. Je t'ai donné un reminder plutôt. Il va faire la draw pour le transport de Claire bien vite ici. Et c'est typiquement proche de 1h, ça c'est 1h47. Pour dire, les billets sont 2 pièces le morceau, mais si que le billet gagnant n'est pas payé pour, personne ne le gagne. So, si vous voulez payer pour des billets pour le 50-50 du transport de Claire, callez-le au 902-769-2333. Il va y avoir un concours ici à Radio CIFA où vous pourriez gagner des billets pour voir Kenneth Saunier au Richelieu. Le concours fera mercredi ici et il y aura plus de détails à venir. Ce soir, va être là. So, si vous voulez me voir, va au Club Acadien le soir pour une soirée de banalité. Trivia Night. Ça commence à 7h, c'est 10 pièces de personne, équipe de 6, et c'est en support des amis de Saint-Anne. Again, ça c'est au Club Acadien de Saint-Anne-du-Rousseau. En clair de soirée, il va y avoir une marche pour l'environnement à l'Université Saint-Anne. La marche prendra place de 4h de l'après-midi et vous pouvez vous rencontrer avant qu'il commence aux réceptions de l'université. Demain, samedi matin, le 28 septembre, il y aura un déjeuner à le Club Acadien de 8h du matin jusqu'à 11h du matin. Et ça, c'est aussi en support des Amis de Saint-Anne. Le samedi 5 octobre, il y aura une expo pour le monde âgé 50 ou plus à l'école secondaire de Par-en-Bas, ici à Sept. L'événement commence à 9h du matin et finit à 3h de l'après-midi. Les participants pourront s'occuper des ateliers, visiter les exposants, partager un dîner chaud et gagner des prix. Ça, c'est votre dernière journée, so s'il vous plaît, pré-inscrire au plus tard aujourd'hui avec Karen Morton à 902-742-3542, extension 1925, ou sur email à karen.morton@nshealth.ca. Aussi, n'oubliez pas d'aller checker out mon concours sur la page Facebook à Radio CIFA, appelé Quelle auto est-il? Là-dessus, je regarde pour des bonnes réponses aux questions sur l'année, la marque et le modèle de voiture que j'ai mis dans le portrait. Vous aurez la chance de gagner soit 35 pièces contre un échange de huile à l'automar à Guy en Sept ou un échange de huile gratuite chez Tusket Ford. Il y a des restrictions là-dessus, so. Quand même, allez regarder. À serre, écoutez Lisa Leblanc avec Craft Dinner. Hi, Lynn. I don't know if you're still on. If you are, congratulations on your pursuit of happiness in the LPN program, I think, if I remember right. Congrats. I don't want to insult any businesses, but I'm glad to see that you've found one of your passions and you're pursuing it. Glad to see that. I worked with Lynn a couple times in the past here. Just checking things out, making sure that I have the songs in the right spot. So, I'm looking for about a 3-minute song right now. Just keep you aware, if I'm looking down like this, that pretty much, in most cases, means that I'm looking 59. Single and Audrey. There we go, that's better. I'm just sorry for kind of going blank there. So in the background, when I'm looking in this general direction, I've got 2 computer screens that have everything that's going on in the radio in the background. I've got the time, the current song, how many minutes and seconds there are left, what's to come, in this case 2 songs to get me to the top of the hour where I'll read the weather. Also tells me when I've got to stop, they call them, appropriately named, because the actual media player will completely stop, at which point I can just slide up my volume on this mic right here. Currently my volume is down, so I slide up the thing and I'm like, hey, thanks for joining me, you're here with Jay Hubbard, your Voix'd Par-en-Bas, your voice from down under. Hello Kenny, comment ça va? So yeah, that's what happens in the background kind of every once in a while. I got to make sure that, for example, to get me exactly to the top of the hour, I was missing a song. So I had to go find out how long the songs are. I've got a list of 30,000 plus songs. In this case, I put in Jacques Surette, Les Hauts et les Bas. It's 3 minutes and 32 seconds, 3 minutes and 32.5 seconds long. So that will take me from 1:56 and 27 seconds right into the top of the hour. Then I'm cued for my stop where I'm going to say the weather. So I apologize in advance if every once in a while I kind of go, oh, or look down and just go blank. Usually that means something's about to hit the fan here, Jay. Smarten up and take a look. So just kind of trying to keep all the balls in the air in this juggling act. Instead, if you're a Fast and the Furious fan, Dom says, I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Instead of a quarter mile, I live my life a quarter minute or a quarter hour at a time when I'm doing this job. So I'm here at 8 in the morning, Monday to Friday. My show's noon to 3, Monday to Friday, Atlantic Standard Time. And I spend the morning from 8 to about 11:30 prepping, getting all the stuff out, the happy birthday messages, all that stuff's getting prepped. 11:30 I call the radio station. I do what's called a queue. I get queued up. So I'm in Tuscot, they're in Comoville. So what happens is we do a Skype call, not video, just audio. So without the internet, this wouldn't be happening. So thank goodness for that. I do a Skype call to the radio station. They get that on their computer. They've got an output from their computer that sends the audio out of the Skype call into their soundboard. They just slide up their volume meter, whoop, turns up the volume for the Skype call that I do for 3 hours, and it's my show to control. So I get to throw in local music. If you got friends, you yourself, family, that have tunes that they want to get on the air, especially French tunes. I can play some English ones, about one an hour, but especially French tunes. If you have some that you want to get on the air, message me. Find me on Facebook. You're on Facebook now, obviously, so message me. Let me know where to find it, or message me the actual song. I heavily recommend that if you do have a song, and this is free to do, if you look up SOCAN, it's SOCAN. I think it's Songwriters Organization of Canada, SOCAN. Yeah, SOCAN. Look that up. It's free. You register your songs and who you are and all that stuff. And a couple of random days a month, SOCAN basically will contact all the radio stations Canada-wide, and they'll get 2 random days a month from that station. And this is how the artists get paid. So if I played on one of the days that's being polled, they get the entire 24-hour spans played list. If we happen to play Jacques Surette 100% of the time, he gets 100% of the funds that they've got for this demographic. That's all it is. If he's half the time, he gets half of them. And that's how they determine. So they just do percentage shares, and it goes like that. So if in 2 days, all we do the whole 2 days is play Jacques Surette, then he's getting it all. I thought that was kind of neat. So if you're not a SOCAN artist, you can't get paid. If you are, you will. And if it's only one play out of 24 hours worth of music, then you might only get a quarter or 15 cents or something, but it's better than nothing. And you never know, it might be the next big thing and it blows up and you get a check for $1,000 in the mail or something, just for letting people hear your music. So, as I was speaking, I'm looking down currently. I've got the weather coming up right at the top of the hour, which is 2 minutes and 48 seconds away, basically. Just refresh that, and now I have the weather for 1 o'clock. That's good. And thanks again for tuning in. Can't say it enough. Without viewers or listeners, or either or both, doesn't matter what I say, nobody's ever going to hear it. If a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody there to hear it, did it make any noise? If I'm speaking and nobody's there to hear me, did I make any noise? Did I actually affect any change? Don't think so. So that said, excuse me, thanks for tuning in. If it wasn't for you guys, it wouldn't matter what's being said. It wouldn't change anything anyway. Hey Jason, how's it going? Yeah, speaking of changing, affecting change, being the cause that affects change, the petition I've got to change the end of the highway. 943 supporters, 195 views shy of 14,000. 13,805 views, 441 shares. And I've basically given myself a deadline, so we're the 27th. Monday, basically. might even start this weekend. I'm giving myself to the end of the month. No matter how many supporters there are, I'm going to start calling and emailing when I get the chance to see if I can get actual signatures on this petition. Because in order to, let me just see, signatures as a spreadsheet, get list. I'm just going to check out my account here. So, manage email address. What email is that? Oh, that's what's up. Sorry to blank out. Jay Hubbard at Gmail. And if you excuse me, I am on in just 10 seconds, so I will be right back. Des airs, des conditions actuelles ont été enregistrées à l'aéroport de Yarmouth, à Anner. C'est 16 degrés Celsius, généralement ensoleillé, c'est beau soleil, 101,7 kPa avec une tendance qui hausse. Ça fait quand même plus beau. Vent nord-nord-ouest, 14 km/h avec une visibilité de 20 km. Humidité de 74,74%. Ça donne des prévisions de généralement ensoleillé, vent du nord-ouest 20 km/h avec rafale à 40 de nord-ouest, 20 à cet après-midi, maximum de 17, et des UV de 5 ou modéré. Ce soir et cette nuit, quelques nuages, nappe de brume qui se formera en fin de nuit, vent ouest à 20 km/h devenant légère au cours de la nuit, minimum de 8. Pour samedi, beau soleil, nappe de brume se dissipera le matin, vent devenant sud-ouest 20 km/h avec rafale 40 en après-midi, maximum 18 et des UV de 5 ou modéré. La nuit, ennuagement, minimum de 13. Dimanche, ça donne alternance de soleil et de nuages avec 60% de probabilité de showers. So, maximum 19 dégagé, minimum de 7. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Anyone got some podcast ideas? I gotta put a podcast on there. On my YouTube. Gotta get a podcast out there for Monday, because Monday is International Podcast Day. And yeah, I want to get that finished. So we'll see what happens. There we go. Check out spam mail here. I don't know what's up with this. Like, it's crazy the crap that comes into spams. Whatever. I can delete that. All mail. Is it in there? Haha. Awesome. So what I'm doing right now, try that. User. I'm trying to log in to there we go. Let's try that. Weird. So yeah, trying to confirm my email address so that I can send myself a spreadsheet of all the names that have signed. 946 names. I don't think it's going to be 2 minutes to get those names off the interwebs, like they call them. So yeah, just I'm going to do that. My ears are burning up. What's up with that? So jump back, go to my inbox, see if all mail. So I'm hearing, there we go. Sorry about that. I was just hearing in the news about Nova Scotia getting rid of single-use plastic bags, and I kind of agree with that. I heard a stupid comment, in my opinion, stupid comment from an Alberta somebody political that's like, oh yeah, it's a meaningless symbol, basically. I think I understand what he's getting at, though. Nova Scotia as a whole has, what, 1 million people? Most of those people in Halifax. So we're 1/30th of the entire population of Canada. 1/30th. If we're the only ones the whole countrywide that do this, then yeah, there's 29 million people that aren't doing something that only 1 million people are doing. Is kind of just a symbol at that point, don't you think? Instead of trashing it, he should be considering how they can implement the same flickin' thing there. For example, I'm going to haul back that. I've got an example my buddy Josh and I are working on. And hopefully you'll hear more about that soon. Because it might be a way to help solve some of the world's plastic issues, plastic problems. And it's kind of keeps in light with the guys that are taking plastic and recycling it and turning the plastic into pellets and making it into a house that they did in Matagan, I think. They're also using the same plastic pellets to put as an additive to pavement, so you end up with more robust pavement. Hey Steph, how you doing? And yeah, Josh Trask and I are hoping real soon here to start working on a little business plan on a way to help alleviate single-use plastic bags ourselves. So hopefully you'll hear more about that. We can help be a little bit more of the change that makes our world just that small, slight little bit better. I don't know. Hey Mark Mo, how's it going, man? And yeah, so I'm back in manage emails. Yeah, that's good. Go to change.org. So just to keep you guys aware of what I'm doing here, I've got a petition on change.org. My petitions. I'll click on that. Started. Get rid of the hill at the end of the Highway 103. 943 supporters. And I'm now looking signatures in PDF. Signatures spreadsheet. Get the list. Cool. And signatures in PDF. Actually, I'm going to do comments in PDF. Get that list. It is Friday, Barb. Did I indicate that it wasn't? Ah, cool. I'm glad you're here. So if it's your first time, just so you're aware, and you may have saw in the notes, but this is a Facebook Live that goes in conjunction with my show on CIFA. I'm here. Oh, I'm on live in just 2 seconds here. Well, 10. I'll be right back. Stay tuned. I'll be back in English. Vous êtes rendu ici en touche chat avec Jay Hubbard à Voix'd Par-en-Bas. Merci beaucoup pour me rejoindre aujourd'hui sur les ondes. Aussi, je suis sur Facebook Live de nouveau. bonjour tout le monde là-dessus et tout. Ouais, je parle justement à propos de la pétition. Je suis sûr que vous autres êtes just about fed up d'attendre à propos de ma pétition. C'est quasiment fini. So, rien pour dire, le 17, c'était pas ce mardi passé, mais le mardi avant ça, on avait un accident à la fin du highway 103. 3 à 4 cars qui vont parler up là. La prochaine mardi, c'était le 24, le reste de mardi ici. Un autre accident là, à la fin du highway. Hier soir, pardonnez-moi, hier matin, ma femme Amanda, mon mari, je devrais dire, ça c'est le bonne façon de dire à ce mon mari Amanda allait au travail. Elle a dit un gros Dodge venait derrière elle, elle a locké up ses roues, ses pneus comme qu'ils disaient. Ses tires qui screechaient, il avait passé à bord d'elle à droite. Again, so deux accidents, y'en de plus quasiment, c'est temps de changer de stuff. So, si tu voulez ta voix c'est entendue, fasciner la pétition, va à la fin du mois ici, figure out comment va avoir les 3 signatures pour donner à Colton, à Zach Churchill, Colton Leblanc, et des beaux félicitations à Colton. C'était son premier jour dans la maison législative, là, the Legislative House Assembly. Hier, c'était son premier jour. Va regarder là sur YouTube, sur Google pour voir les vidéos, qu'est-ce qu'il disait. Good job, Colton, c'est tout je vais dire. Yeah. So, pour faire du change, allez là-dessus, donne-moi des idées. Vous pouvez me passer des idées, des concerns. Veux-tu que la chemin chez vous c'est pavé ou c'est du gravier, veux-tu c'est gradé? Comment? Donne-moi des idées. Pour rien faire, c'est que personne ne dit rien. So, c'est de même ça arrive. À cette heure, j'allais écouter des tunes, however. Pour commencer avec, ça va être Pat Boudreau en Acadie. Hey guys! If you don't understand French, I apologize. So I was just saying, check out my petition, telling them that the 17th, Tuesday the 17th, there was a 3-car accident at the very least, I think 3 to 4. The week after that, another accident at the end of the 103, where it comes down over that big hill. When you crest the hill, you don't have time to stop and there's traffic there. Yesterday, Amanda, my wife, was on her way to work in town, stopped at the top of the hill. A big Dodge locks up its tires, comes screeching by her on the right onto the gravel so it doesn't hit into her. Smile, Barb said. I don't want to smile. Anyway, it's time to change. I'd love the change to be the proper way and put a connecting overpass that goes over the 103, connects to the 101. And if you're curious, you'll see a cell tower kind of where that RV shop is. Keep an eye on where that is. It's about 100 meters from the highway where it comes to the road. Do the loop around, go onto the 101, and when you get perpendicular to that tire, it's directly to your right. That tower, directly to your right, you're going to notice that it's directly adjacent to land that goes right across, I think it's DeFry's field. It's for sale with Modern Realty. So they could make an overpass from 101, connect the 101 from the 103, connect it to the 101, have an off-ramp that goes across that field, hits Pleasant Street. Ambulances that go 101 or 103 can now bypass Stars Road altogether, hit Pleasant, go to from Pleasant to Chestnut, straight to the hospital. They're cutting easily 5 minutes off of their trip every single time. If that's a stroke or a heart attack or something life-threatening, that's 5 minutes that could alter the course of that patient's life forever. Potentially life and death. So, if you can't do it right, at least for now, please get rid of the hill at the top of the highway, level it out so people can see. When you're coming from Tuscany, there's a Greenville overpass that you drive under. We call it Motormart Mountain. Hello, Andre, how's it going? We call it Motormart Mountain. On the left is a big mountain that or big hill they used to take four-wheel drive trucks on, and to test them out and see if they could make it to the top of the hill. So that was nicknamed Motormart Mountain. You go up and down that, and you'll notice that's hard granite. It's hard pan. You can't, unless you're blasting that rock, you can't get rid of it. You go down that hill, you go up the next one, same thing. Big rocks, same thing. You got to blast that to get rid of that. But you crest that hill, and you're going to notice a sign 1.5 kilometers to the end of the road when you're getting to the bottom of that second hill. And then if you're looking ahead, you're going to notice that the road starts to slowly turn right, and almost on that curve, there's a sign on your left that's about 1 kilometer from the end of the road that says Fisherman's Memorial Highway. It's on your left, so you won't be able to see it coming from Tuscany. That's 1 kilometer away. You'll notice the hill starts to then rise slowly, get to the peak, come back down from there, and there's also a 600-meter sign that says, hey, highway's ending at 600 meters. Then there's rumble strips. All that's there, and still, 2-3 years ago, 2 cars, one right after the other one day, that my daughter happened to be right behind on the highway. They drove right over all that, past the 1.5 kilometer it ends mark, past the 600 meter this highway ends mark, over the hill, over the rumble strips, right across the hard scratch road, and only hit their brakes when they got to the hard scratch road. Do something. It's time to change it. It's what I'm trying to get the MLAs to table in the House of Legislative Assembly. Legislative House of Assembly, I think. I don't know, whatever. So yeah, thanks for joining me on my lives. We might not be a large population, but that doesn't mean we can't make our voices heard. So my hope of hopes, if I could dream freely, would be to use the CIFA radio show to kind of get an audience. So Carl, if you check it out, if you go to my Facebook, a few links down, you're going to see sign a petition. If you click that, it's a petition for exactly that. If you cannot connect the Highway 101 and the 103, then at the very least get rid of the hill at the end of it. And that's at the end of the month, I'm going to start going for the actual signatures, which makes it an actual viable petition in the House of the Legislative Assembly. So, as I was saying, what was it? Oh, if I could dream freely, then CIFA would be a way to get a general audience where I can talk about some of the little things, but not in too much detail. You never want somebody to go, this guy's a freaking idiot, and tune out their radio. The last thing I ever want, because that ad revenue that the advertisers pay the radio station is what pays my wages. In actuality, I'd love for local Par-en-Bas type people, Wedgeport, Pumlico, Argyle, all these areas. You're welcome, Carl. I don't want to be a hypocrite and say, hey, let's make change and never ever do anything myself. So when I saw that petition, when I saw that accident happen, I was like, you know what? Time for a petition. I'm sick of this, and it's just happening all the time. So yeah, I'd love for the local businesses to get aboard and start promoting the area on CIFA as well as CJLS. One of the things that I like about CIFA most is that the Acadian heritage that is my ancestry gets promoted so strongly, that you learn why. I get to tell people why I'm so proud of being Acadian and always will be. And that's rooted in, we weren't necessarily one specific religion. We were theists, or believers in deity, believers that there's something larger than just living as a corporal being. There's something larger to life, whatever that might be. And in my belief, every single culture that's ever called someone or something a god is trying to use words that they've understood their whole life, a vocabulary that they grow up with situations in their culture that they grew up with. That gives them symbols and words that they can use to describe what they think God is. I think we're all describing the same flicking thing. Just saying. So the Acadians and the Knights Templar, for example, who were our distant relatives, the settlers in Nova Scotia with William Sinclair. And if you watch The Curse of Oak Island, these names are going to sound familiar to you. William Sinclair was a man from Scotland that had ties in the Knights Templar, and he went to New Scotland with the surviving Templar Knights that hadn't been burned at the stake or hung for false charges, basically, by the papacy and King Philip the Fair. They basically wanted the Knights Templars money so they could spend it freely. Then the Acadians, my people, were under religious persecution themselves and a failed monarchy in their minds, and they fled to the French colonies that were in Nova Scotia. And that is kind of That's the ancestry. Then to top it all off, the British realize these people and the Micmac people are so strong in unison, we can't beat them. So we're going to deport the Acadians, get rid of the French, unless they unless they sign loyalty to our king. And that made the loyalists. Crois moi R19. Merci pour me rejoindre. Je parle justement au monde sur le Facebook Live là, qui me rejoignent là. Je parle à propos, j'ai été parlé à propos de ça sur les autres avant. Les Acadiens, nous autres, c'est nous autres, les Par-en-Haut, les Par-en-Bas. Nous sommes un lignage qui est proche de tout cas, je dirais. C'est mon idée. Anyway, pour rester. Ça commençait avec les Templar Knights, les Knights Templars. Je ne vais pas m'en souvenir des Chevaliers du Temple, c'est en français. Et tu vois ça sur History Channel, il y a des Curse of Oak Island, qui a beaucoup de Templar Knights ties, et des ties français. Par exemple, sur Curse of Oak Island, il y avait un map qu'il avait trouvé dans vieux français, c'était écrit dans vieux français. Il y a un spot sur le map, en haut à droite, si je m'en souviens, ça disait c'est que tu vas vers l'est. EST. Va vers l'est. Well, their translators avaient traduit ça comme vers, comme un cup d'eau, un verre d'eau, vers l'est. So, they were thinking, en anglais, c'était East Glass. Et j'étais comme, quoi c'est qu'un East Glass? Moi, je regardais ça, première journée j'ai ever vu ça, vers l'est, ça veut dire, garde vers, towards, the east, garde vers l'est. Ça, c'est du langage que les Acadiens saurions pour sûr. Si tu es par-en-haut ou par-en-bas vers l'est, c'est de garder dans la direction d'est. So, yeah, parlons à propos de nos ancêtres et du stuff de même. Les Templar Knights sont venus ici avec William Sinclair, qui était un gars du Scotland, un gars gallois, I guess c'est appelé. So, lui a été de là, il était un Knight Templar lui-même. Il a amené les Templar Knights qui avaient du religious persecution. Et le roi de France à ce temps-là, King Philip the Fair, qu'il appelait, il doit avoir de l'argent à l'église. À cause, il avait fait des batailles, les Crusades, dans les 1200, là, les 1100, 1200. So, les Crusades avaient coûté beaucoup d'argent pour France. À cause de ça, il doit avoir de l'argent à l'église qu'il avait des lentes to him. So, il avait fait des false claims à les Templar Knights à dire, basically, they're heretical, ils croient pas dans notre Dieu. Et il avait brûlé des Templar Knights, burned them at the stake, il avait hangé. Et non, on dit qu'ils avaient survécu par courir, basically. Il avait été au nord de France. Et de là à Scotland, rencontré avec leur compatriote William Sinclair. Lui les a amenés au Nouvelle-Écosse, ici, au Par-en-Haut et au Par-en-Bas, en châtiquant toutes les affaires qui étaient settlées avec des Acadiens, des Français, et ça c'était des communautés françaises. Après ça, nous autres, les Acadiens de France, avant que n'avait même du français du roi, King's French, qui était une langue française standardisée, avant que ça s'arrive, nous autres avons quitté, avons boundé pour Nouvelle-Écosse, parce que savions qu'il y avait des communautés françaises là. So, les Acadiens, puis les Knights Templars, ça va tout rassembler avec les Acadiens, avec les Micmacs. C'est étrange si tu gardes la national flag type of affaire pour les Micmacs puis les Knights Templars. C'est une flag qui est proche exactement le même, ou que c'est comme un mirror image. So, c'est une manière comme dire, moi je suis à gauche, puis je crois dans un dieu, et l'autre, comme les Templar Knights, étaient à droite, et ils croyaient en Dieu. Ensemble, c'était tout un peuple qui voulait régler la paix et être fermiers et vivre la culture. So, on est venu ici et, obviously, vous savez qu'il y avait une grosse déportation. Ce qui arrivait, Les Anglais avaient rentré et dit pour pas gagner une guerre contre les Mi'kmaq et les Français. Soit que vous disiez que tu es aligné avec notre roi, you're a loyalist, ou si pas, tu gagnes. C'est déportation. So, ça qui est intéressant, et je parle beaucoup de l'autre ici, mais c'est kind of cool. J'aime ce stuff ici. J'aime de parler à propos de ça. Si tu veux que je me taise, quitte-moi un message sur Facebook, je me taiserai. Quand même, the ancestry de ma femme, de mon mari, Amanda, elle vient de Digby. Mais dans ses ancêtres, il y a un d'Ambroise, il y a des Mélancins, des Amiro, je ne peux pas me souvenir d'autres, des Leblanc là-dessus, je m'en souviens. Mais elle parle pas de français. So, peut-être, on a dit au moins, quand vous signez d'être loyaliste, et on va déménager plus proche de Cornwallis, c'est là qu'est le base des Anglais. So, c'est peut-être des Français qui vont dire, yeah, you know what, il va peut-être mourir si vous faites pas ça ici, so il va faire. And out of necessity. Et je peux comprendre ça. C'est que ma famille était ici et je voulais pas le quitter. C'est ça que j'aurais fait moi-même, probablement. Ou j'aurais été dans les bois avec les Mi'kmaq pour vivre là-dedans, comme à Quinnen, ou dans les forts, comme tu disais, ou ouais, dans East Camp, ou Chet Park, ils pouvaient parler, ça veut pas même que t'es là. Des histoires de même, c'est ça que je veux parler à propos du stuff sur mes podcasts, sur mon Facebook Live. À vous autres, de temps en temps, je peux pas vous inonder avec trop de stuff qui est kind of food même, mais quand même, c'est pas d'attendre de savoir ce que venir. Pour rester là, on va écouter des autres tunes. Merci beaucoup pour m'écouter, pour me rejoindre aujourd'hui. Et Aster, Jamil Azawi, tout ce qui est bon. Wowzers, that was long-winded. 3. Nine minutes. 3, 6, 7. Excuse me, sorry about that. A little bit of a hiccup. Matthew Challoner, what's up? Josh, it's nice to see you again, Josh, as well. Taught Kathy. I don't know who's watching, it just shows me 3 eyes as a picture, so thanks for tuning in nonetheless. If you didn't understand, I was just telling about my wife's ancestry. So she is from Digby, but in her family lineage, she's got D'Ambrose, they called it. That's weird, Dr. Robertson. I'm going to have to decline the phone call here. There, sorry about that. A D'Ambrose, that would have been a French name called d'Ambroise. Amiro, they spell it A-M-E-R-O, but it would have been a French name, A-M-I-R-A-U-L-T, which means admiral, basically. L'Admiro, admiral. Melanson, or Melanson, Melançon, another French name, or Melançon. I believe some Leblanc and maybe Muse in there. Nonetheless, all that lineage is Acadian. But she doesn't speak a lick of French. Nothing. She learned a little bit in school. She can kind of understand that you say hi or bye type of thing. But if we start chatting in French, she doesn't have a clue what's going on. That lends me to believe that somebody in her lineage somewhere would have signed the decree that said, I decree that I am loyal to the King of England. And then they moved closer to Cornwallis, or to Digby even, that were loyalist settlements. That word's evading me because I'm thinking in 20 different ways here. So anyway, that loyalty pretty much has absolved or gotten rid of their French speaking. She says that she remembers her grandfather talking about his ancestors being completely unwilling to speak French, just completely embarrassed of it. So, what I was hinting at, and again in French on the CIFA show, which happens Monday to Friday, noon to 3, Atlantic Standard Time. If somebody came and said, hey, either you sign that you're loyal to my king, or you leave in a deportation and we take you away from your family, got a couple of responses to that. I sign their stupid piece of paper and don't really claim true loyalty to him, to the king. I accept that I'm getting deported and I may never see my family again, or might die, they might die. I can't protect them anymore. Or I head for the hills. I join the Mi'kmaq that we're already good friends with in the woods, and we find a way to live together. For example, in Quinnen. That's why there's so, in my opinion, in the Forks there's so much Métis or Mi'kmaq Acadian heritage there, that they would have just fled to a place that these people wouldn't even known existed. Probably follow the Tusket River in, or the Quinnen River inland, and just live there. Whatever. Can't get me that way type of thing. If you start thinking about the way that affects all the things, even silly little things like Oak Island having French, and they're like, could it be that there were French settlers in the 1600s in Nova Scotia? It's like, no crap, buddy. I am part of that heritage. And could it be that there was British soldiers on Oak Island in 1725 or 35 or whatever they dated at? Frig, yeah, it could be. In 1735, the British got us all to frickin' leave. To us folks, that's part of our heritage. So I like digging into that stuff further. And it seems, at least from my standpoint, that the Curse of Oak Island, it's got a lot of that history, but it doesn't know the ties. And then there's Knights Templar show. I forget what that one's called. Nightfall. That's what it's called. Nightfall. There's also the Vikings. Am I missing any? I don't think I'm missing any right now. Nonetheless, that's all on History Channel. And they're based at least loosely in fact, it seems. Like there was someone called Ragnar Lothbrok. And he had a brother Rollo. And that Rollo married a French princess, or French aristocrat. And they had kids, and they created a bloodline all their own. And he was a Norseman, which meant that he came from the north. And they would have emigrated later on in life, at least, closer to his homeland. My ancestors come from that place that even now, my aunt Yvette got an Ancestry.ca DNA test. In fact, I think it's 1 or 2%. At the very least 1%, we'll say. That's giving the benefit of the doubt. 1% Scandinavian DNA still. What is this? How many hundreds of years later is that? Like 400 years ago? 500 years ago? There's still a 1% Scandinavian trace. So, evidently, yeah, we got Viking blood in us. It's kind of crazy. I'd always heard that there were rumors of Christopher the Red, I think, was a pirate in our lineage that was of Viking descent. I don't remember where that story came from or originated, but nonetheless, it's interesting, and I'd love to get to the bottom of it all and kind of sort through it. I'd love to talk to people if you've got interesting stories about your lineage, and I'm completely indifferent if you're one of the evil English people in some people's minds. Like I never understood in times of peace like this. Like, we've been in general peace, I guess, worldwide for a long time now. When I went to high school, if I went to a dance in town, I'd hear, "You effing frog, get the heck home," or "Get the heck out of here," or whatever it was. And there was always somebody fighting with someone, because this guy was English, and that guy was French, and this guy was Shelburne English, and this guy was the Yarmouth English, and Like, freaking get rid of the stupid delineations that you have for your areas that you live. If your accent's different, it doesn't make you any different than us. Like, it's just like, it's as stupid as an argument as racism is. Racism at its core is discriminating against someone because they have more or less of something called melanin in their skin. More melanin allows your skin to tan darker. And eventually you're going to end up that the people that have a propensity or that are more likely to get dark, that live in places that are more likely to get sun, over time they'll be more likely to stay dark. Racism to me isn't even a word that's accurate. It should be called melaninism. Hey George, how's it going? Melaninism, because you're discriminating on someone on how much of a pigment they have in their skin. That's it. Like, I don't know about you, but I've met people of all different races that are just as nice and have the same hopes and dreams for their family and friends as anybody else I've ever met. I don't care what color you are. I don't care where you came from, what dialect you speak, what accent you have on your... If I can understand what you're trying to tell me in some manner, and you feel the same way I do about keeping my family safe and having family and friends that I can love freely, or if you so choose to have a God that you believe in freely without being persecuted, then bugger off with your friggin' borders and countries and whatever the heck else you want to separate us with. We're all the frickin' same. I don't know where to even go with it, but it just seems to me that politics in general now are becoming so separatist, so separate. Left is so far left of where they think the right is, that if you say something that, like some people will say to Greta Thunberg, to Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old girl that's a climate activist, they'll say, Greta, people are pulling the wool over your eyes. Don't be so stupid. And if you say that, oh, I'm going to be back. Now, that's not my opinion. I love Greta. I think she's doing a great thing, and she feels passionate about something that she's fighting for. Good for her. Vous êtes rendu ici sur CIFA 104,1, le son du sud-ouest. Avec Jay Hubbard à Voix'd Par-en-Bas, c'est 2h36. Je suis ici en tous jet. Ça, c'est quasiment mon dernier petit segment, là, avant je quitte. En passant de ça, je vais faire un autre... Excusez-moi, j'ai une petite rhume qui commence à être formée ici. Je vais faire une autre annonce communautaire pour faire sûr que tout le monde a entendu ce qui se passe à les alentours ici. Vous pouvez maintenant acheter des tickets de bingo pour Radio CIFA chez Dell's Home Hardware en Pamlico et tout. Pour 7 pièces le bundle, le bingo c'est tous les vendredis soirs à 6h. So écoutez le soir, ça va être là. N'oubliez pas de payer pour vos billets de 50-50 pour le transport de Claire. Le tirage fera de passer aujourd'hui, il arrivera tous les vendredis. Il sera 2 pièces le morceau les billets. Mais si le billet gagnant n'est pas payé pour, personne ne le gagne. Pour d'autres informations là-dessus, vous pouvez le rejoindre à la Transport de Claire au 902-769-2333. Il va y avoir un concours ici à Radio CIFA où vous pourriez gagner des billets pour voir Kenneth Saunier au Richelieu. Le concours fera mercredi et il y aura plus de détails à venir. Le soir va être le moment, si vous allez dire hi, 21. Il y aura une soirée de banalité, Trivia Night, à le Club Acadien dans Saint-Andrews. J'espère te voir là. Ça commence à 7h, 10 pièces de personne, équipe de 6, et c'est en support des amis de Saint-Anne. En clair de soir, il va y avoir une marche pour l'environnement à l'Université Saint-Anne. La marche prendra place à 4h de l'après-midi, et vous pouvez rencontrer avant qu'il commence aux réceptions de l'université. Demain, le samedi 28 septembre, il y aura un déjeuner à le Club Acadien de 8h jusqu'à 11h du matin. De nouveau en support des amis de Saint-Anne. Le samedi 5 octobre, il y aura une expo pour tout le monde âgé 50 ou plus, ici à l'école secondaire de Par-en-Bas, en Tous-Jet. L'événement commence à 9h du matin et finit à 3h de l'après-midi. Les participants pourront s'occuper des ateliers, visiter les exposants, partager une dîner chaude et gagner des prix. Aujourd'hui, c'est le dernier jour pour préinscrire. Et vous pouvez faire ça avec Karen Morton. Travaille à l'hôpital, évidemment, c'est 902-742-3542, extension 1925. Ou aussi par email à karen.morton@nshealth.ca. Et dernièrement, ça c'est mon concours. Aussi, n'oubliez pas d'aller checker out mon concours sur Facebook. Je ne peux pas parler à cette heure. N'oubliez pas d'aller checker out mon concours sur la page Facebook à Radio CIFA appelée Quel auto est-il? Là-dessus, je regarde pour les bonnes réponses aux questions sur l'année, la marque et le modèle de voiture que j'ai mis dans le portrait. Vous aurez la chance de gagner soit 35 pièces contre un échange de reel à l'Ultramar à Guy en tout chèque ou un échange de reel gratuit chez Tuscan Ford. Il y a des restrictions là-dessus tout. Aster Tap 9 Superhero. Hey guys. Man. I got 6 minutes to get rid of here. Try that. Boop. Boop. Excuse me just a second. I'm going to pop my earphones off. I'll keep talking to you though. I'm going to go over here and I can actually let you see it if you want. So right there in the corner. Where are we? Yeah, I guess there somewhere. There's 2 CD players. I'm going to grab my Tragically Hip CD and pop that open. Get it ready to go. I'm going to rock up this DJ booth for a split second here. Pause. Power. Song 1. There we go. So that is cued. I got Little Bones by the Tragically Hip queued up to play. So that'll be my last thing for the day, pretty much. 55, 59. Over by a minute with a 3-minute song, so I'm looking for a 2-minute song. My Daniel Page, we're going to throw that there. Get an Eric Serret tune. I'm going to grab this guy and slide it down, so that will do there. Cool. Alright. So it's currently 14:42. What time do we have here? 14:42. I am live again at 14:46, so about 4 minutes roughly. A little more than that. Live again. It's been great. I don't know that there's been a point at all today where I haven't had somebody at least on my Facebook Live, and I couldn't thank you more. Because without an audience, it's just like the saying they say, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, did it make any noise? It's the same with anybody's opinion. If I'm speaking all day long and there's nobody there listening, I could have just spoke to myself. There's really nobody there to hear it. So thank you for being my audience. Putting up with my silliness, my crazy thoughts and ideas, questions, concerns. I never take anything at face value, never have. I always ask questions. Sometimes they're stupid, but I don't really care. I want to know the truth behind all things in the world. And yeah, kind of go there. From there, figure out my own stance and things by hopefully talking to people that have different stances and things. I'm what I would consider a space theist. I believe in theism, that there is a greater force that created us. I don't think that greater force is a guy in the clouds that chooses who suffers and who doesn't. But I do agree that something greater has had its hand in the creation of what we see as existence. Just because I'm a theist doesn't mean that I don't appreciate that somebody has looked at what they consider the facts and they can't accept that those facts are explaining something that's imperceptible to them. So I've got atheist friends. Atheist being one word, meaning not a theist. Or against theism. Atheist against theism is basically how those words are different. Theist, you believe in theism, that something created it all. Atheist is you're against that theory, and you don't believe that something created it all, that it all just happened randomly. I reconcile that as such. I feel like God or the Spirit is an energy that's just out there. It's an energy, and it's an energy that's at a holy or a good vibration, a good energy. What the Asiatic people, I think, would call yin, in the yin and yang, the circle with a white kind of doohickey and a black dot. That's the good with a little bit of evil, and the black dot, which is the evil with a little bit of good. Yin and yang, yin and yang. So the godly, good, benevolent, merciful energy. And these are all just words to try to describe things. That's out there. So I'm noticing that I'm on in a minute, but I'll keep talking. So that is what I believe is theism. So I believe that God is energy, but didn't have senses. It couldn't see or smell or hear or touch or taste. I'm just looking to see. I got about 30 seconds. So there's something called the stoned ape theory, which basically says that apes at one point ingested a compound that would have connected their brain to that energy for the first time by eating a mushroom that contains something called psilocybin. That psilocybin metabolizes into something called dimethyltryptamine, which is called the God molecule, the spirit molecule, because you experience your death basically and then have communion with God afterwards. I'm on in just a second, so I'll be right back. Et pour la dernière fois, vous êtes rendu ici avec Jay Hubbard, la Voix'd Par-en-Bas. Je devrais dire la dernière fois pour aujourd'hui. C'était 2h46, so je suis tout fini à 3h. Merci beaucoup pour écouter mes ramblings et toutes les choses que je vous avais dit aujourd'hui. Merci à tout le monde sur mon Facebook Live. Hello. Vous devez jouer une tune ici avant ça commence. Ça peut être par Tragically Hip. C'est à Play Little Bones. So je vais rocker up une minute pour le commençant du soir, I guess, pour vendredi. Bonne fin de semaine tout le monde. Here we go. Just to keep you guys aware, I had to set the sound levels because it was, you know how advertisements come on TV after you're listening to a show and you're like, you can barely hear what these people are talking about, and then all of a sudden the ad comes on and it's crazy loud. Well, if I don't monitor how much my output my in this case CD player is giving my soundboard, I'm going to do exactly that to the listeners out there in radio world. So that's what I was kind of doing there, trying to make sure this stuff was working. So my apologies. Nonetheless, to get back to theism, so this is a theory, but they call it the stoned ape theory, and basically that the apes partook in a compound that gave them a sentience. They were all of a sudden aware that they were more than just, they were aware that they were something at all. So the first time it turns on something called ego at the same time. Ego is the part of your brain that governs your senses and it allows you to live in a body as a corporeal being, as a meat vessel they call it. And that ego regulates all of your systems to make you survive. So we, the apes, evolved to basically humankind eventually. Like Neanderthals. There's evidence of Neanderthals, they evolved. Those apes became basically humankind, Homo sapien. When they connected to the God spirit, to the energy for the first time, that was the first time, because they connected like telepathically, for example, and God was able to experience through, it says, in the Bible it says God created man in their image. It doesn't say his image. It's misquoted. It says in their image, which almost leads you to believe that it's in not only God's image, but also in mankind's own image. So he was, whichever creature partook in that compound, connected to the gods, showed them their personal point of view for the first time. God then, and it's given domain to God, but at that point they realize, I'm a being. I'm separate from that person. They don't know what I'm thinking. Only I know what I'm thinking. And then we've kind of gone forth from there. So Adam and Eve are created as a godly race that I think, race might be the wrong word. Nonetheless, they're created, and they have Cain and Abel, and Cain gets jealous of Abel and he kills him and they shun him, and it says in the Bible that Cain is shunned from the cities, forced to leave, but that he marries eventually. And it doesn't say he married his sister, and as a matter of fact, it says, explicitly says in the Bible, implicitly says, I think that's the right word, sorry. It says in the Bible that Adam and Eve celebrate the birth of a child later. Not that they had 20 daughters and Cain married one of them, but that they didn't, it doesn't say they had any, but they celebrate later. So I'm just skipping songs here. There we go. Cool. They have a daughter. Or, it doesn't say they have a daughter, but it says that Cain marries. Who did Cain marry was a question that I always asked when I heard that story. It says they made Cain and Abel, Cain kills Abel, then Cain gets married to an imaginary wife and has kids that are imaginary? No, none of that. In my estimate, he married the evolved apes that had gained sentience by ingesting a compound. So he married, say, the Neanderthals, but he was a godly race. And I've got theories on how God would have created a godly race. There we go. But we can talk about that at another time. So that's how I reconcile theism with atheism. Atheists believe that it was only evolution, that it was all happenstance. I believe that happenstance led to a connection back to what actually created us. And it all part of a plan, so to speak. It's one of the things that humankind has the hardest time with is figuring out any concept that isn't linear, so it doesn't go from point A to point B. So to say that God has domain over time is saying, basically, God's born at the end of somebody's life, and he can go to the front, he can go to the middle. He's everywhere at all times because he can be anywhere at any time. And I just say he because that's the commonplace symbol that we use for what we call God. I'm just gonna, while I'm thinking about this here, I'm gonna make sure that there are no stops in my radio show or in the radio player coming up. Because if there are, I'm done at 3. I go home tonight. I got the night off, so I get to go see Gromer Pauline and those guys. If I don't keep an eye on those stops, I would walk away from here, shut off the thing, and if nobody's in Church Point, sorry to scratch my armpit like that with you guys right there. If nobody's in Church Point specifically watching the media player, I mean, they go home too at some point, then there's a chance that the first time a stop comes forth, it's waiting for me to talk and I'm not here. So always check that out, make sure it's just going to be a flowing show, which it is. So we're good there. And yeah, jumping back to the theism and all that kind of stuff. With God basically being energy, energy can be everywhere and nowhere all at once. And they talk about that in quantum physics, where there's something called a particle cloud that is an electron basically in an atom. Is nowhere specific, but everywhere all at once. And if you observe it, it manifests. When you observe it, it changes from a particle, from a wave to a particle. Just that is crazy. And that's called the double slit experiment, I think. I can describe that a little bit. So double slit experiment. I'll use easy references, points of reference. So say you have a marble and an air gun that'll shoot marbles. And you got a big trough full of marbles. You just point this gun at a doorway. If you shoot enough marbles, and the gun's kind of making a circular pattern like this while the shooting is... If you shoot it at a wall where there's a door, and there's a wall behind that, every marble that goes through the door will impact the wall behind, will leave a mark. So marbles, consider them a particle, a circular particle. And we're speaking about really small stuff that you can't even see with your eye. You have to use electron microscope. So if you shoot particles at a slit or a door, they'll leave imprints in the back. So they'll color it in a pattern that's sort of shaped like the door. Waves, if you were to do the same door, like a wall with a hole in it, a slit in it, and a door, and you pass a wave in a pool that's, I don't know, colored water. So you pass just one wave through the pool, and then you start doing pulses of waves, colored water, and they go through the door. When they hit the door, they'll kind of get small where the doorway is, and then they'll spread out, just like when you throw a rock in a pond, it spreads out. So waves will go, and the food coloring, say, that's in the water will go on the wall at the back of the pool, and it'll make a dispersion pattern. So it'll be dark in the middle and kind of fade out a little bit because it concentrates in the middle. So that's waves and particles with just one slit. When you put two slits, particles, you shoot them, and they'll do the same exact thing as they did before, but instead of one cluster in the back on the wall, there'll be two. So you'll have a dispersion of particles in the back. When you have two slits with the wave, funny thing with the wave is it'll go through the door, and as it's making those ripples that kind of emanate outwards, what time is it? Okay, let's just go. I just gotta log back into this real quick because I don't remember what I left for songs. Let's see, there we go. Cool, that should get me back in. Yep, That's good. Okay, closing it up. So with waves, they'll go through the slits and they emanate, and if they were alone, they'd make that pattern where it's dark in the middle and spreads out, and it's just kind of like as if you would smeared food coloring there. When there's two waves, as they spread out through the two slits, they'll start to hit into one another, and some of the waves will hit and they'll stop moving, and others will hit and they'll get stronger. Just like when you push a kid on a swing, if you push them in the direction they're going, they'll go further away from you every time. If you push towards them as they're coming back from you, you'll slow them down a little bit every time. So waves interfere with one another that way too. So they make a pattern where in the middle it's dark, then on each side it's a little lighter, and then there's, dark in the middle, little space with nothing, little lighter, little space with nothing, little lighter. That's called a dispersion pattern. Waves do that. And when you leave waves, like a photon of light is a wave. It's very small. A photon is so small that gravity doesn't affect it. That I might be speaking improperly. Photons might be affected. Nonetheless, it's a wave. So a wave of light, if you're not observing it, will act in that way. It'll do a dispersion pattern if it goes through two slits. If you observe it, if you look to see if you say, I wonder which slit it goes through first, or if it goes through either of them first, and look at the slits with a conscience, if a being measures that, it'll change from a dispersion pattern to a particle pattern. Just instantly. Happens instantly. And that instance is what they call quantum entanglement too. Because not only does it happen instantly, it happens instantly over infinite expanses of space, like light years. Light goes 180 million kilometers an hour. 299,758 kilometers per second. So if in an hour it can go 180 million-ish kilometers, then how far does it go in a year? So an hour times 24 hours a day times 365.2625 days in a year, that's how many kilometers light goes in a year. Over vast expanses of hundreds of light years. Particles like that are entangled so close that if you change one of them, instantly hundreds of light years away the other one will change. So that would be saying, if you had a zygote, an egg, that's fertilized to make twins, and the egg splits, and it was at one point the same particle. Twin A is here in our galaxy, and we have a way to get twin B to the other galaxy, and this might not even be that great an example. But anyway, I'll keep pushing with that. So you get the twin in another galaxy 300 light years away. If you change something to this one on a DNA, in its DNA, that one will react instantly in DNA. That sounds woo-woo. Just saying it, I'm like, that's not possible. I can't give you a specific example right now. I'd like to. And one of the entanglement arguments or statements, I guess, that I've heard is that if all particles in the Big Bang, that's pretty much universally accepted now, if all particles are initially one hyperdense particle or molecule or whatever it was before it exploded to become the Big Bang, then every particle, that everything in the entire universe, whether it's this plastic, this microphone, me, phones, steel, carbon, wood, every single element that everything is made of, at one point was all the same thing, and when it blew up, they remain entangled. I describe that as such. So there's a pendulum. I'm going to Google that right now while I'm talking to you. Steel ball pendulum. Swinging steel ball pendulum. That's the one. Newton's cradle. So if you Google Newton's cradle, what happens, and most people can even picture this to a certain extent, you've got, say, a series of 5 balls that are hanging on a steel string, usually a solid string, so it can't bounce and stuff. So the balls will be one beside the other. You pull this one out, and you let it go, and it slides, it hits the other 4. They instantly transfer all their energy from this guy to that guy to this guy to that guy because they're all touching. So it has no real distance to travel. It just hits that one shakes. The shaking instantly shakes the next one, moves it down the line. Boop, the outside one goes out. That hits, and they just keep doing that. Well, with friction loss and air, traveling through air and all the things that are on Earth, that's eventually, even heat, when you hit it, it releases just a slight amount of kinetic energy that causes heat. That kinetic energy, you can never create or destroy energy fully, so that kinetic energy gets transferred a little bit to the ball that it hit, and it'll slow this one down just a little bit. So it click, click, and eventually it'll stop. But on the initial impact, it's transferred nearly all of its energy. If you take particles that are so small that they're completely imperceptible, and they may always be imperceptible, and you consider that everything, even what they consider empty space that's in an atom, is filled with potentially hundreds of bajillions of these things, and they're all so closely connected that as soon as you tap one of them, it sends the information through everyone that's directly adjacent to it because it's touching it and all. Oh, happy birthday to Google. It's Google's 21st birthday today. Anyway, so they're intertwined or entangled so closely that as soon as you effect change of one, tick, it instantly transfers change through all other things in all other directions. One of the ways that you can consider that is, so a star that's out in the sky that's millions and millions of light years away, when its light's getting here, however many million light years away it is, it's taken that long for that light to get to us. But it's emanating light in all directions at a time. So it starts in a ball, goes, and kind of light goes outwards everywhere. If you don't believe me, look at the star and just go like this up and down. Go way up, you still see the same star. You go way down, you still see this. Go left, go right, you still see the same star. So it sent that same light everywhere all at once. How does it do that if all those particles aren't everywhere all at once? That's kind of what quantum entanglement talks about. I feel like quantum entanglement, which they are relaying to string theory, I feel like those particles move in waves. So they'll start a movement, but that movement, say it starts to vibrate. If you find a way to connect to that vibration, say the good vibration that's going at a high frequency, and you connect to it and you're going exactly up and down, it increases how high up and down it goes. That's called amplitude. So I feel like string theory is alluding to that the strings are actually these tiny little particles that are vibrating in unison because they're always really entangled. Then string theory talks about something called a multiverse, and this is how I explain a multiverse. At one point, I'd had an accident. I left the road. I had been going about way too fast. I'll just admit to it. I had been going 180, left the road. I thought, when I saw the speedometer last, upon closing my eyes, grabbing the steering wheel and the door handle because I wasn't buckled in, I saw 160 kilometers an hour hitting a ditch. I think because infinity is such a vast amount of time that there's potentially infinite amounts of existences. So imagine this, in this current world that we're living, that I can experience and you can too. I hit a rock in the ditch and it throws me in a manner that I land on my roof. I cease to exist in that existence. The crazy thing is, in this case, my eyes are closed, I'm not buckled. Once the truck stops flipping the 7 or 8 times, I think it did one end over end, what I call a pickle flip, and then rolled 7 other times to be facing the same direction, even though it had gone end to end initially, facing the same direction on the driver's door. I'm sitting on my hand. I just heard the steel ripping apart, the wheel tearing off, the glass breaking. The A-pillar on the passenger side was crushed right into the dash, so any passenger would have died without question. It would have crushed them to their sternum. It's all done doing that, and I'm sitting there, and I start touching my arms and making sure. I'm like, it can't be that I'm not hurt. I don't feel any pain. What's up? So I'm like, nothing. I've got absolutely nothing. Like, not a scratch. The next day, I don't remember having bruises. I wasn't sore. It's as though something had plucked me out and then put me back. So I almost feel like, if that wasn't a divine intervention, that basically every version of the universe that had played that incident out, there might have been one slight little difference where I'd gone 1 millimeter to the right and hit a rock in just a different manner, that once I was done flipping and landing on every one of those 7 flips, it increases the likelihood that I'm going to get crushed to death or thrown out of the vehicle because I'm not even buckled in. It goes through every single iteration, just with minor detailed changes. What happens is, in all those worlds, the Jay Hubbard that existed and that everybody knew that's in those existences died. And they're all considered a different universe, a multiverse. In the one universe where all the things line up so that I live and I'm unharmed, that's where we are right now. That's what I experience as my reality, and you're in it with me. But there's infinite amounts of realities that exist for all the other people that are out there around the world. And ever since that accident, I've had all these crazy thoughts just swirling about that. Yeah, I had stuff before then. I was an inquisitive guy, and I always wanted to know about things, but not in this kind of light. Like, this is a step beyond. So, the Josh that I've befriended at work, he too had a near-death experience, and he got in an accident with a car that eventually it flipped up, hit into a telephone pole, if this was the pole, and folded the car right around the pole, so much so that when the tow truck driver came, it was the Rhinos, I think. When the tow truck driver came, he said, when I put your car on my truck, it fell apart in 2 pieces. It was an Acura Integra, and he said somehow I got out of that car even though the whole front end was pretty much torn off and I had landed in the back seat. He said all people can imagine is that I crawled out of the window in the back seat of this Integra, and this is, let me see, about that big. Yep, that's about right. I'd say 14 inches across the bottom, 16 inches across the top, 9 to 10 inches tall on the right. It's kind of a triangle-shaped window that allows for the hatchback. I used to have one, and I cleaned it 1,000 times. It was a bane in my existence when I cleaned it. Nonetheless, he lived through that stuff, and he's like, I've been different ever since. I question things differently. And he's like, everyone I've ever talked to that's had a near-death experience, there's something different about them. They see the world differently. Then I get watching this video by this place called Rhythmia, Rhythmia. He's in Costa Rica. He's got a spiritual enlightenment center, basically, where they partake in a ceremonial brew called ayahuasca. This brew has been used for, I think, for multiple millennia, 5,000 to 7,000 years, that the people in the Mesoamericas, which is like Central America, the Aztecs, Mayans, that kind of people, and even in the Amazon, they've been using this kind of brew for ceremony for years and years and millennia. It's hard to fathom millennia of using this same kind of medicine to heal people. So anyway, he's talking and he says, we're all born with a soul's purpose, and we're infants, so we can't do anything about it. We can't even walk or feed ourselves. We're completely helpless when we're born. But we do have a soul's purpose. Eventually we start to age, and right around the point where you start to realize, unconsciously basically, the first time you see a baby lie, it might not be a great thing that they're lying, but what's happening is they're realizing that my brain is separate from your brain. And what I say, if you can't see what I'm thinking, if you can't see that there's a distruth about that, a dishonesty, then I can lie and you're never going to know I'm lying. As far as you're concerned, it's truth. So that's what's happening the first time a baby lies. That is the spawning for the first time of your ego, of the part of your body that's aware I'm a soul being, I'm a corporal existence that only realizes things from my standpoint. And that helps you, because you're unique, you're yourself, you're a body. It helps your body use its senses to survive. So this guy says that starts after toddlerhood, basically, and starts to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Then you kind of get put into this social school system where you're starting to learn social norms and how you as an individual affect the whole, and how the whole affects you as an individual. I mean, schools were, I think, they were finding out that they were molding young minds at a younger and younger age. So it went from, say, grade 1 through 12 to adding a grade primary, because they realized we got to get these kids when they're a little younger so we can mold them better. Then they're like, okay, we need a pre-primary, and we need you can start school in grade 3 or kindergarten even when you're just a toddler, which slowly starts to break down your soul's purpose. The further you get away from that soul's purpose, the more discontent you are. And this guy is saying this is how it happens, and the people that can figure out what truly their soul wants in life are fully content. And he's like, so I forget, 93.6% is the number that comes to mind. I'm probably wrong. Of the people that go to their center, learn their true soul's purpose. And he's like, but this excludes people that had a near-death experience. They've already hit the reset button, so they know what's going on. And they're like, whoa, what? Near-death experience. So he's basically saying, once you've had a near-death experience, your soul starts to re-experience the world as though it's brand new. And that ties right into Josh's theory that people with near-death experiences see the world in a different light. Potentially. I'm not saying everybody does, but some of them do. I mean, you guys work together, Matthew? You and Mr. Claude La Crepe Chef Godin? La Crepe Chef. Yeah, did I say that right? Claude the Crepe Chef Godin. The love crepes. Call him the Flapjack Chef. Oh, okay. I just thought you actually smelled him or something. Wah, wah. Wait. So yeah, there's been a lot of stuff in this live. I kind of yammered on. When I get tired and have coffee, I start beep, 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 beep. So my apologies. At least you won't have to see a lot of dead air this time on my live. But yeah, I'm past my time here, so I'm gonna sign off for now. He FaceTimed you. Oh, isn't that cute? I don't even FaceTime my wife. Like, Claude loves you, Matthew. I love you. I love you. Claude's like, can I touch your barb, please? Is your barb soft like silk? Anyway. Woo! So yeah, that maybe the near-death experience is why I have all this woo-hooey stuff that I believe in. But don't trust my opinion. Come chat. Tell me why I'm wrong. He's always wanting to rub Matthew's don't take this out of context. So Claude Godin Matthew saying always wants to front his ultra soft megabarb. Rub, front. Same word. Wait. I feel like I gotta get home, start some soupe, maybe figure out what we could order for soupe. That'd be even better. Wait. Get that going. Try to have a little nap. Get caught up on some sleep here. And if you're curious about quantum physics, check out something called Newton's cradle. And you're going to notice that when you swing one ball in Newton's cradle, it's the pendulum sort of swing that has steel threads that are holding balls, and when you pull one out, it tick, 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 and they instantly transfer their energy through all of them to the next. Quantum entanglement. If you have small enough particles, I feel like those particles will work in the same manner. So no matter how great the distance, if you hit one and move it, it'll send that signal instantly, no matter how large the distance. Quantum entanglement, in my opinion, can be depicted in a scale that we can understand by Newton's cradle. And I would absolutely love to have somebody that knows that kind of quantum physics to say, dude, you're dumb as a brick. That's not right. This is why that's not right. And just talk about it. They don't have to insult me. But if they do, whatever. Yeah, I'll change my stance. Teach me what's wrong about my stance. That's what I want to learn. And yeah. So, again, thank you everyone for tuning in. My life's pretty much done, but I don't have to work at the hospital tonight. So that at least is good. I could technically sit here for a minute or three and chat with you folks. Always looking for an idea for a podcast too. So like, if you want to hear my ramblings about something, if you're like, hey, what do you think about one of the topics Claude and them talked about, the Mandela effect. Claude and Matthew and Vern and Adriana, they talked about the Mandela effect there. And what's your thoughts on the Mandela effect? If they say that, then I'm going to talk about the Mandela effect. Pick a topic. What is it? I just saw Al Doucette, and I remember like Al from when I was a kid. Even he was around because his dad and mom were friends with my grandparents, and evidently my parents been longtime friends. And one of the first things that comes to mind is kayaking when I think of Al or Ralph or Grand-Père and Dad and all those guys. That was one of the ties that we had to the area, basically, because kayaks ran up and down the brook, not far from where Al grew up, really, or myself, for that matter. You want to hear about some of the stories I've heard over the years kayaking? I think it's striped bass that used to chase down the kayaks. And I've seen some, personally, there was a mounted one that was... So Grand-Père had two mounts of striped bass. One was a gorgeous mount, 53 inches long. One was kind of a rookie job, not that nice to look at, but a 57-inch striped bass, if I recall. Freaking massive fish chasing down these kayaks, and that we could talk about that. I Claude. Matthew was saying something about stroking his megabarb, Claude. I don't know if you're game for that or not, but he said his megabarb is soft. Anyway, so I don't know. I'm just teasing you guys. Anyway, what do you want to hear? Al, Claude, Matthew, whoever else is watching. I think you three are the ones watching right now. Anybody else out there, after the fact, pop me a message. Who knows? You might enlighten me on something that ends up being my life's goal after this. I don't know. The universe works in funny ways. Like, for example, I was talking about, and kick me in the junk if you don't want to hear it, but I have a theory where if you take the speed of a rotating system and you add the two speeds of two rotating systems together, potentially things that are rotating at exceptionally large speeds exceed the speed of light if you compound their speeds. That's in a nutshell. I write that theory out. There's a buddy of mine that has a buddy who's an astrophysicist. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta talk to this guy somehow. And he's like, yeah, I hear he's moving back. And so he does move back. And the next day I'm working, I pass by the community bulletin board and it's like, hey, you looking for a math or science tutor? And I'm like, math or whatever. And I just kind of glance at it. And when I glance, it's one of those times where one word jumps out at you, but you don't have a clue where it came from. So like, physicist, whoa, that's what jumps out at me. So I stop, back up. So I read this thing. It's like, yeah, I'm currently studying for my doctorate in astrophysics. Strong grasp on physics and math. If you need a tutor, call me. It's got his name, it's got his number. And I'm like, holy crap, this is the guy. The universe works in weird ways. Got other stories, but they're a little woohooey and about topics that people are like, ugh, what are you? So, screw it. I'll just talk about it. So, I'm reading this book by Michael Paul, and they're talking about how psilocybin can fix depression, basically, and they got it all down in the science of why it works. And they're like, this is amazing. And they're basically saying if you take a large enough dose and you see a psychotherapist at the same time, that it will effectively, 2 sessions could possibly cure depression completely. And we're sitting on lunch break, and I say to one of my coworkers, I'm just going to find a field full of mushrooms, the right kind of mushrooms, eat 25 grams, come in and say, fix me. So, and we're joking, and they laugh, and I laugh, and I go home. And the next day I wake up, and there'd been a big rain, and it's super humid the next day, and it's probably around this time of year. And on my lawn, there's a blossom of thousands of tiny little mushrooms that look an awful lot like the ones I was talking about. I can't be sure of that, so I'm not going to go pick them and just eat them. But it's almost like the universe is like, oh, what were you saying? About what? Oh, yeah, here's some. Explain that. Never ever had some since, before or after. Since then, haven't had any more. Before that, never had any. And since then, every time I mow my lawn, I'm looking around, like, see the same thing? Nope, that's one of those big slimy ones. Nope, that's one of those conches that grow on, or conchs, I guess, that grow on birch bark. Never the same thing. Gets you thinking. If there's an all-knowing creature and he's seeing you suffer and doesn't want it, wouldn't it just be a possibility for that to get manifest out of nothing, almost miraculously? Sometimes too much to believe myself. I don't know how to take any of it. But anyway, neck's a bit sore. So, I hate to sign off when there's nobody watching, but I mean, thankfully, thank you very much for tuning in. For now, I think that's going to be it. If you're interested in being on the podcast this weekend, I've got to do one. Not real sure what the topic will be yet. I feel like I'm going to talk really in depth about what I watched in a movie that they call The Zeitgeist, which I think is basically what's in the common knowledge of the general populace. And they talk about like the roots of religion and where that came from and how it shared paganist views, and then kind of expand on that and say, hey, have you ever considered that maybe some of those paganist views that they're leaving in their dogma and their religion might be based in something that was fact at some point? So I'm going to hit that part of it, I think. I'm going to have to research a little bit, rewatch the Zeitgeist, get things nailed down, like why Christmas is on the 25th of December, and why all sorts of stuff. If you're curious about that, why Jesus is said to have risen on the third day, and its ties in the spring equinox. Why Jesus is also considered the fisher of man, I think, in the Bible. That is reference to the house of Pisces that we're currently in. Astrologically, we're in Pisces, the fish. And we're going into the age of Aquarius. And there's allusions to this in the Bible. It's alluded to, not illusions, not things that are tricking your eyes, but allusion, something that's hinting at something else. It's alluded to in the Bible about the age of Aquarius. And Jesus being the fisher of man, they say, because of the age of Pisces. So I'm going to see if I can research it, hammer down some facts, get that on a podcast for you guys. If so, look forward to seeing you on the lives then. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.